Hello and welcome. Today we're going to be talking about mobile home parks and storage units. This is one of our last installments on the commercial side of things on the Success Series, so we're excited to get to it. As always, whenever you begin a new strategy, you need to be mindful of putting together a good team that is specialized in what it is that you're doing. And so keep in mind that when you talk about working with commercial real estate, that you need a commercial real estate agent rather than just a real estate agent that does commercial. And so you want to find somebody that does this specifically and maybe exclusively, and they will give you the best service and the best information and the best action that you can get in the industry. If you choose to just work with somebody that normally does residential, they may not know all of the hoops to jump through, and they may not be able to help you the way somebody that's professional in that side of things can do. Same would be
Right.
true with accountants, with attorneys, with really pretty much everybody on your team needs to have some experience and some expertise working with the kind of properties that you will be trying to tag here. So keep that in mind. You might need a whole separate team depending on what you've already built, but don't skip this step. It's really important to begin by having these people in place so that you're not in this alone, and so that you make sure that you got all the bases covered, and these guys know things you don't know. And so you want to be able to tap into that knowledge base and experience base that will help you to be much, much more effective.
Mhm.
Christine, did you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, just really to emphasize what you've already said, because it's so important to have people that have done what you've done before. Remember that commercial real estate is a whole animal unto itself. So buying a multifamily residential complex that's, say, 200 units, it's going to have some similarities to buying a mobile home park, but a lot of things are going to be different. Some of your due diligence will need to be different. So it's really important to do, like Steve said, and find the people that have actually bought and sold those before. So real estate agents that understand what they're doing. Um, Anybody that knows the right questions to ask, because a lot of times I've told people over the years, it's not so much what we tell you to do. You can find a lot of information on the internet and in books about what to do, but what's really important is to know what not to do. So you have to be very careful that you don't get into certain scenarios. You have to watch out that you're not stepping in any landmines with particular properties, because remember, commercial real estate has a wide variety, one of the largest varieties of real estate investments that you can get into. And they're all slightly different. So you just want to be very, very careful and get a team around you that can support you in walking through and avoiding all the landmines. Back to you, Steve.
Excellent. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So, in these presentations, if you've been in them before, you'll know this already, but if this is your first time here, I will explain. Yeah, as we go through the slides in this presentation, we're going to give you a little bit of an overview, just a glimpse really, of what the webinar series is going to be about. And then we also want to give you something today that you could take away and actually put to use, just something that you can get started with. And so you can expect those two kind of things going on. In this particular presentation, we're actually going to cover two different sets of seminars that we'll be doing. The first one is going to be mobile home parks, and the second will be dealing with storage units. And so let's just start with the mobile home parks here. First of all, when we go into our presentation on the webinar, we'll be talking in detail about some of the benefits and risks of owning mobile home parks. And it's kind of a unique proposition, really. It's a different kind of property than most any other real estate that you might deal with. We're going to talk about the different types of mobile home park ownership. There's a couple different ways that you can handle that. We're going to talk about how to find the mobile home parks, analyzing how the deals are done and how the numbers work. And then finally, we'll be talking about property management, inspections, repairs, maintenance, whether you should be sourcing that out or whether that's something that you should be doing on your own. In addition to those topics, we'll be talking about how to negotiate the deal, putting contracts together, making your offers. We'll be talking about how to add value to your mobile home park so that it increases in value over time. We'll be talking about how you might be selling the mobile homes in the park if you own them as a source of income, lowering the expenses, increasing the rents, and taxes and upgrades. And so, as you can see with the pictures on the right, you can get pretty fancy in a mobile home. We kind of have this idea that they're all kind of trashy and attract trashy people and drug addicts and crime, but that is not necessarily the case. Yeah, there's a wide variety of mobile homes and mobile home parks out there, and you can pick and choose what you want to invest in. So just keep that in mind, that again, it may not be what your preconceptions have been all about all these years. We'll also talk about tax management, how you can use a 1031 exchange in order to delay the tax consequences of selling of real estate and income, IRAs, and then finally seller financing and how that might be able to affect your taxes as well. Christine?
Nope, that's excellent. Well said.
Awesome. All right, let's talk about some of the benefits and a few of the risks that are involved with working with mobile home parks. First of all, mobile home parks as a niche give you the highest cap rates of any other income property stream. Now, I found that to be kind of an interesting statistic. There's some that come close, but this, on average, works out higher than other investments. So it'll give you a higher return on your investment and capitalization rate. So that's kind of nice to know when you're getting into something like this, that there's some pretty good promise behind it. One of the things that make this work is the consistent high demand, and which also means you're going to have low vacancy rates. So it really doesn't matter what kind of economy you're in, whether it's a great economy or a really suffering economy, there's always going to be need for low-income housing. And what people find is that for the same dollar amount, or maybe even less in many cases, for what you would pay for, say, a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom apartment where you don't really have a yard, where you don't have pets, that you can get a mobile home lot where you can actually have some yard, you can do some gardening, you can grow grass, and put out flowers, you can have a dog or a cat or a bunch of them if you want. You've got space and you've got some autonomy there. And a lot of people, particularly families, find that the mobile home park environment, if it's a good mobile home park, is going to be better than an apartment environment and gives them lots of benefits that you won't have otherwise. And the result of that is that mobile home parks tend to stay occupied at about a 98% rate, as opposed to a nicely rented out apartment building that might be at 95. And so you really don't have to worry about very many people leaving. Not a lot of turnover. A couple of other reasons for that is if they own their own mobile home park or their own mobile home in the park, they're not going to want to move it if they go somewhere else. So they have an incentive to stay where they are and continue to pay the rent. So it's a pretty consistent, reliable source of income. It's easy to raise rents every year in a mobile home park. You just do it incrementally, maybe $10 a year, but you can do that consistently over time as well. And that'll help you keep up with market rents. And again, they're not going to find anything out there beyond the mobile home park that's going to match what they can get right where they're living. So why would they leave? So you get a little bit of leverage there. You also are able to take advantage of what we call economies of scale. It's when you buy things in bulk. You get a break on a lot of different things. So maintenance becomes cheaper per unit when you have lots of units. Bookkeeping, rent collecting, all those things that you pay for services, either by paying out a management fee to an employee or whether you resource that out to a third party, it gets cheaper when you've got more units. It gets cheaper per unit. So those are some of the nice things about dealing with mobile home parks. A little bit of the downside. Banks are really reluctant to lend on mobile homes. Technically, they are not real estate. The mobile home actually has a VIN number, a vehicle identification number. Technically, they're vehicles. So you don't get real estate loans on a mobile home. You can get a real estate loan on the land that it sits on, but not on the mobile home itself. And so that makes it tougher to finance. As a result, when people go to buy a mobile home or a mobile home park, typically either they've got to come up with a big wad of cash, or they're going to have to find a way for the seller to help them do some financing. So the result of that is that if you're a seller and you're trying to dump a property, it's not going to turn over as quickly unless you are willing to give up some seller financing terms. And so if you want it done quickly, there's going to be some concessions there that you'll need to make. So it's slower turnover a little bit. It's difficult to cash out when you sell for those same reasons. And if you're buying on the buying end, you're going to have to come up with more cash to buy because, again, the financing isn't going to be there. So the bigger upfront costs can be in the form of a loan. You might borrow the money, but the money still needs to be there. So thoughts on that, Christine?
Yeah, really want to emphasize what you said about the seller financing part. There are some of those pros and cons definitely in place. Especially when you're getting ready to purchase these, one of my favorite things is that because the sellers tend to be long-term investors, they usually don't need all of the cash out. So setting up some kind of creative seller financing, creative way to purchase a property is a high probability on these types. So as long as you have some money to put down, they tend to be pretty flexible as sellers, and I love that about them. And then the flip side of that being it is so much money down usually, but I want to plant the seed that it's not always, say, 10% down. If you find some of these mobile home parks that are owned by, say, guys that are in their 80s, coming up on their 90s, some of them don't even have much, if any, posterity to pass these along to. And so they're really not money motivated. So finding them is the tricky part, finding the ones that really cash flow the best. That's tricky. Obviously, there are mobile home parks all over the place, but the ones that have the best ROI, like Steve's walked you through, and the sellers that are really not money motivated and are very flexible to say, you know what, just go ahead and give me X amount down. I'll finance you for the next 15 or 20 years. That's the big upside to it. So they are a little different that way, but they're just fantastic. I love the idea, like Steve says, the vacancy being less. The other tricky part that I've noticed is with the tenants that live there. Now, these buyers, a lot of times they have to be cash buyers because of that trickiness of the financing he's talking about and purchasing the mobile homes themselves. So that piece of it, if you're working with buyers that want to buy those, need to buy those, a lot of times they have to be cash investors or have even up to 50% down. And that's a lot of cash for a lot of people. So it can be tricky on that end. But then again, the flip side of that, my favorite part is that the opportunity to seller finance or to pick these up dirt cheap, because not a lot of people have the ability to go in and purchase with cash, increases your likelihood that sometimes you can pick these up. There are places not far from us where they're selling them for $2,000 to $5,000 for a whole house. You know, it's a mobile home, yes, but I had to laugh when Steve talked about the VIN number because it's true, and I didn't understand that when I got into real estate. I just thought it was a house, and I found it's more like a great big car on wheels. If it has something that makes it movable, and here's the differentiation. This is something that's kind of a little different than he talked about, but it's another thing I found fascinating. The differentiation to the lender is that if it's not permanently fastened to that foundation, so let's say it's on a slab and it has, there are different ways to fasten it, but if it has a very permanent attachment to it, as long as the lender qualifies that as a permanent attachment and that thing's not going anywhere, then they are willing to finance it as a house. Still a larger down payment, still a trickier financing to do, but if it's not attached, then they just consider it like a car that might drive off of its lot. So I thought that was hilarious because you'd never think of one of these if you look at that picture just driving away, but technically if you can hook it up to the back of a truck and drive it off, they think of it more like a giant car, and I thought that was pretty cute. Back to you, Steve.
Yeah, appreciate that.
Hmm.
So a couple things along those lines. There's a difference between all mobile homes are just what they call manufactured homes. And like Christine says, some manufactured homes are fastened to a foundation. And they get financed as a manufactured home. Still a less desirable product than just your regular house, but not a mobile home. So, but keep that in mind that sometimes when they talk about mobile homes, the other name for them, the preferred name actually is manufactured home.
Hmm.
And so just keep that in mind. And the other thing that I wanted to mention that she kind of triggered a thought in my mind was I mentioned a little bit before about the tax benefits. And one of the interesting things about mobile homes and mobile home parks even is that they depreciate at a faster rate.
Hmm.
So probably because it's not real estate. It has a 15-year depreciation. So sometimes what happens is somebody who owns a park like this will hold on to it for those 15 years till the depreciation runs out, and the depreciation starts all over again when the property gets sold. So actually, that's a great time for a 1031 exchange to get out of this park, go to another park, jumpstart the depreciation timeline again in their new park, and the new buyer takes over this park, and they get their own new set of 15 years of depreciation.
Hmm.
So that's kind of why people are motivated to sell, even though the park may be doing well, is that if they can trade it off for a like property with the same kind of numbers and they can recapture some depreciation, that'd be a good deal for them to do. So a couple thoughts along those lines. All right, there's I mentioned a couple different ways that you can look at ownership of a mobile home park. One is where you just simply own the land itself, and people pay to park their mobile home on your lot. There's some advantages to that. There's very little maintenance that you're responsible for, a lot less risk, and if you own some mobile homes on a park that you buy, but you don't want to own them, you can sell those. And this is a really awesome opportunity actually right here to create some awesome seller financing. So let's just say I buy a mobile home park, it's got 29 mobile homes on it, and I decide that I'm going to sell those. I can even sell them to the people that are living in them right now. And what I want to do is I want to set up a payment plan where if they continue to make their payments to me, plus maybe an extra $100 a month or so, in a relatively short period of time, they will actually own that mobile home. And then all be responsible to me would be for the paying for the lot. But as soon as I turn over ownership on a seller financing, I'm no longer responsible for the maintenance on that property. It's all theirs. I also get a stream of income that's coming in excess of what I would have gotten for rent. And so it ends up being a pretty sweet deal for me to sell those properties rather than to hold on to them and wait for new tenants. Also, if I sell it, it really kind of anchors those people into that house. They're going to be there for a while. And so some real advantages to doing that as opposed to if I just wanted to hold on to a mobile home park. Now, the downside is if I've got a bunch of empty lots, then I'm going to have to find a way to get people to come and move in and bring their mobile homes there. And it's about a $3,000 cost to move a mobile home into a park. So you may want to think about that. So if I own the land and the homes, that will give me more income per month in some ways. It's going to give me some responsibility to do maintenance, lots of it. But I don't have to attract any new homeowners, and I don't have to worry about anybody having to spend $3,000 to move in. So there's some upside to both ways of looking at it. But as you start looking at different mobile home parks, you're going to want to look at what some creative ways that you might be able to turn what might be kind of a mediocre deal into an incredible deal, mostly through the use of seller financing.
Hmm.
Christine?
Just a couple of thoughts in case people listening aren't putting all the pieces together yet. One of the very nice advantages of the buying and the selling of these types of properties is that the lot space never ends. So as opposed to if you bought 10 homes and you sell the house and the land together, those monthly payments that people might be paying you if you sell it on contract, they'll end at some point. But with this, even if they pay off the mobile home, they still have the space rent. So it literally is a cash cow on the lot space on that rent forever and ever and ever. So it stinks for the person that never gets to pay that off, but the advantage to them is it's relatively inexpensive in the first place, compared to, say, renting a house or a condo or something else. But the big advantage for the owner of the land in these situations is that you have cash flow the rest of your life, or as long as you own it.
Right. Perfect. Okay. Today's takeaway. I want to give you some resources for finding these guys. LoopNet is always great for any kind of commercial stuff. There's a website called Search Tempest. It's on your bottom left on this screen, where it's going to search all of Craigslist, eBay, and some other websites, and you just put in one search and it's going to pull up stuff from all of those resources. So that's a pretty awesome tool where you don't have to go and individually start plugging things in and finding things one at a time. This thing will do it for you much quicker and pull in a lot of results, some things that you otherwise might miss. Also, on the right is a website called mobilehomeparkstore.com, and that's a place where a lot of people who want to sell a park are going to advertise. And so you may want to check into that as well, just to kind of see what's out there. And by the way, you may want to search beyond where you live. There are some communities that are really great for mobile home parks, and some communities that are not as good. And so you may want to pick some up in an area where they're going to do very, very well. And so don't be limited by geography. And this will give you a way to search nationwide for different places where you might want to invest. So I've got some very good friends who live in California. All of their mobile home parks are in Tennessee. They just love that place. And so, again, just kind of broaden your horizons just a little bit. LoopNet, this is kind of an idea of what you might find if you were looking. You just pull up the multifamily, and then you can put other parameters you want. The bottom one there is one in Beaumont. It's a manufactured home community. So here they're using that term manufactured home rather than mobile home. But again, this is what it is. Now, one thing you want to avoid in your search is what they call an RV park. That's very different than a residential place. Okay, an RV park is like for vacationers, you know, people that are going to show up and then move out in a week or 10 days or overnight. And those are susceptible to changes in the economy. When things get tough, people travel less. And so they get hit pretty hard when the economy gets hit. And so they're a higher risk. And if you remember our presentation when we talked about the high risk and the low risk kind of properties, this was on the high risk list, the RV parks. The mobile home parks, on the other hand, are on the safe list. And it's a very different proposition when you're talking about setting up a place where people are going to park and live for a while rather than just hang out for a few days and then move on.
Yep, definitely more of that community feel, so it functions as a neighborhood and a community instead of RV parks where people are very transient and they're there and then they're gone. Now there are some RV parks where they're so beautiful, and there are a lot that are very fancy these days. So people that are permanently retired, if you guys haven't noticed, there's a growing older population that likes to just sell their house and buy an RV and travel the country, sometimes for years and years, so they can go camp it by one kid's house for 1 to 3 months and then drive and camp it by another kid's house. So they're a little less transient because they're repeat clientele, but it's still a different feel than if people live there permanently year-round.
Right. I'm not telling you necessarily should not invest in an RV park. I'm just telling you that's a high-risk investment.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else about mobile home parks before we move on to storage units?
From me,
Yeah.
Just one caution, I guess, that this bit me in the hind end one time. Luckily, we were able to pull it together, but I didn't know when I did the first one that the actual title will be different, and that's where you can find out if it's manufactured or mobile. So even if your buyers are cash buyers, it doesn't necessarily remove a title issue. So I had closing all set up with one title company, except that final title search. It's a little bit different what they have to do. So that title company at the end said, oh, we can't close this for you. You'll have to find someone else. And so I did. I had to last minute find a different title company. And I had to get them a copy of the actual title. And that's different than when I'm doing regular houses. So anytime I'm buying or selling houses, title is on record. It's very easy. But just like the DMV might send you a title or a copy of your title that has your lien holder on it, when you buy a car, if you have a mobile home, then you would have an actual physical title to that property, where usually if you're the owner of a home, you don't actually get the deed until it's paid off. All you get is a record of some stuff that's recorded at the county recorder's office. So I thought that was pretty good to be aware of right up front, that that differentiation Steve was talking about between the mobile homes and the manufactured homes. Look on the actual title and see what it has been built as originally. That could be an issue to you when you go to closing. That was my final thought. Back to you, Steve.
All right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Storage units. Storage units are a pretty interesting investment. I've been familiar with this one for a number of years. My in-laws run some storage units on their property, and it's kind of an interesting way to set things up. It's very low maintenance. There's some really nice advantages to it. But when we do the seminar on this and the webinar, we'll be talking about those benefits. What are the benefits? What are some of the risks of owning storage units? And we'll talk a little bit about how to find them, and the different types of storage units there are, and again, the property management aspects of it: rents, possession, repairs, or repossession rather, and repairs and maintenance. So those are some of the issues that you run into when you talk about storage units. We'll also discuss how to negotiate the deal and writing the contracts, talk about how to add value. And I don't know if we're going to do that in this presentation, so let me just point out an example. When you have a storage unit that's just a slab of cement with a frame around it, that has a certain value to it. If you put that behind a gate and it's secured by a gate, now that storage space is more valuable. So that's one of the upgrades that you might do to a property in order to increase the value and therefore increase the amount of rent that you can charge. So just wanted to give you that example where you're looking at this gate. Also, the tax management aspects of it, the 1031 exchange IRAs and seller financing, those are all issues, again, we'll cover in that. So some of the benefits and risks. So again, this is an investment that you'll get a higher ROI on and high cap rates, not on average as high as the mobile home parks, but still, compared to other kinds of investment strategies, that this does very, very well. It also has consistent high demand, low vacancy rates. In fact, some of the better storage units in better parts of town have a wait list. It's going to take you a while to get in there. And so when you're doing your research on the viability of either building another storage unit or even buying a storage unit, you want to be calling around all the competition as if you were a tenant looking for a place, and just find out what they have available and how long is the wait list. And it's really great news when you find out that, yeah, you'd be number 4 on the wait list for a 10 by 30, for example. And so when you're doing your research, that's one of the things you're going to want to look at. But vacancy rates, again, they're fairly low. It's easy to raise rents every year. You're going to still be dealing with economies of scale. The more units you have in one storage facility, again, the cheaper it gets per unit. And also one aspect of working with storage units is that when people don't pay their stuff, over a period of time. It usually takes a couple months. Whatever's inside ends up being collateral that you legally auction off, which can compensate you for the lost rents for while it's been there. It kind of keeps you from having to pursue people in court and stuff like that. You get compensated. And in some cases, the stuff that comes out of those storage units is fairly valuable. In some cases, it's all junk. Some owners of storage units prefer to sell them off at auction, sight unseen. If you've ever been on those auctions, it's a real treat. And you get a pile of people in front of a closed storage unit, and sometimes it can go really kind of nuts. And then they open up the door, and you find out that you've got, 24 boxes of shredded paper. So that's kind of an interesting way to gamble on an investment. Other times they open it up and there's some really amazing things in there, so that's why they'll do that. But anyway, you can either auction it off sight unseen, or you can open it up and then have people bid on what's actually there. Mm-hmm. The risks, again, it's a little bit slower turnover. It's a little hard to nail one of these down if it's doing well. There's not a lot of incentive for people to bail out of it. And so hard to score a really great storage unit. The best way to do that is to find one that's being mismanaged. And ones that are mismanaged have a higher rate of turnover. They have a lower occupancy rate. Their rents aren't up to par. Those are all things that you can fix with better management. They're a little bit difficult to cash out when you sell, and the market's fairly competitive, like I mentioned. There's a lot of people who really understand how awesome a storage unit is as far as putting one in your investment portfolio, or a bunch of them, just because of the advantages of them being so low maintenance. There's some different types of them. So the one in the middle, it's kind of like what my father-in-law built. It just sits on a pad. It's got a frame and some sliding doors, and it's mostly just cement, sheetrock, and some metal framing. And that's all it is. It's very simple. If you want to get a little bit more sophisticated, you can start to move things where you've got some units indoors. So down below, these will probably be climate controlled, and they might be heated, they might be air conditioned. It depends on the climate and whether it's indoors or outdoors. They can be outdoors and still climate controlled. It's just a little bit different how it gets done. So there's some advantages there as well. There's a little added aspect of security when you have to go through a door. Now you're in a building, and you don't have people sneaking up behind from around the corner or whatever, so it's a little bit more secure that way. Sometimes there's cameras that are going to add some security. There's lots of different things that they can do to these things to give you that added amount of security, and every time they do that, it makes their customers feel a little bit better about paying a little bit more, right? So kind of on one end of the spectrum, you've got these green sliding doors. On the opposite end, you've got this thing up on top, which is a storage unit, it's about halfway between where Christina and I live. And this is called King Arthur's, and it's an office building and storage units combined, so it's a mixed use. But they've got all of the bells and whistles that you could dream of in a storage unit. They've got lots of different sizes. They've got climate control. They've got cameras. They've got 24/7 access, but you have to have a key card to do that. They've got trucks that you can rent to move stuff back and forth. And so it's kind of like the end-all be-all of storage units. And because of that, they're very expensive to stay there, as opposed to the green door down below it. But depending on where you are in building your investment portfolio, you may decide to start at one place or the other, or to start with the green doors and work up your way to a castle, or just stick with something somewhere in between. But just understand there's vast differences in those kind of storage units, and vast differences in how you will market those in order to attract customers that will come and stay, and who will be responsible to make the payments, right? If I'm going to spend a lot of money on storing something in King Arthur's, it's not as likely that I'm going to let that go and let them auction it off as if I just had some leftover furniture and boxes behind a green door. So there's usually a little bit difference in the value of items that are stored.
Yeah.
Christine?
Yeah, that's really one thing to pay attention to when you're getting ready to purchase any of these. That property that he's talking about, that King Arthur storage, it's right by a lot of high-end homes. It's in a very good location for properties that are more expensive, where if people are getting divorced or they're moving homes, they're much more likely to want the storage climate, the climate control. And so depending on who's around you and who's most likely to use these, if you're, let's say, in a very rural area or a city that is, it's very divided like we are, where we have everything from very low-end mobile home parks all the way up to multi-million-dollar homes, where your storage units are and what type they are, especially if you have the choice to buy them cheap like the green door ones and improve them so that they have some of the bells and whistles he's talking about. As there are more expensive homes up and coming around that area, that would be a smart move. So you really need to not just check and see what does the storage offer, but what is the supply and demand, what is the need of the houses in the area, who's likely to use this. I just talked to one of my loan officers today that I use quite a bit, and he's a pretty sharp guy. He's got his first investment property now with his son, and then he just mentioned out of the blue, he didn't even know we were doing this webinar tonight, but he said, I'd really like to buy some of those storage units down in Cedar City. Well, Cedar City is a few hours south, but the thing he liked about it is he said it's a lot of college kids in that area. Well, college kids a lot of times don't have room in their little teeny bedrooms or their apartments to store all of their things. So a green door storage unit close by a university or a college would be an excellent investment, and probably you're not going to draw a lot of college kids that are going to pay, unless it's something like a very expensive university, $30,000, $40,000 a year. You're going to draw different types of students' budgets as well. But in Cedar City with a smaller local college, you're probably not going to draw the kind of clientele that really need heated and refrigerated units, or definitely not climate controlled, where every time they go in it, they're going to pay another couple $100s to get it resealed and put back to the way that it needs to be to keep their stuff clean. So be thinking like that outside of the box when it's not just, here's a storage unit. What else comes along with that location? What else comes along with the supply and demand in the area? So those things were floating through my head while you were talking, Steve, but back to you.
Yeah, just a couple of other ideas of things that you might do with storage. Some years ago, I was trying to put a deal together in Dallas. Unfortunately, I didn't get it. I thought it would have been so awesome, though. But it was basically a warehouse. And the plan was to create a storage space. And I don't know if you folks are aware of this or not, but there are certain businesses that are required to keep records for a certain amount of time. So realtors, bankers, doctors, dentists, attorneys, they have to keep records for a long period of time. And some of these larger companies, that adds up to a ton of space. But typically, the records that they have to keep are, they're several years old. They're going to stick them in a box, and they'll not likely look at them again for who knows how long. So an ideal storage space for that would have been this warehouse where you have the ability to put things in containers that you can stack one on top of the other, and then you get a storage retrieval system, an automated storage retrieval system that you can just go punch in the number of one of those bins, and it will pull out whatever it is that your customer is requesting. And that way you can utilize almost all of the space. You take all of this walking area that you can see down below, it's almost becomes non-existent. And so something like that can turn a space like that, which was in Dallas, surrounded by all kinds of businesses that could have used just that sort of a deal, and that becomes a cash cow. And so just something to think about in terms of being able to convert that. Another thing, you heard me mention a little bit earlier about renting out a 10 by 30, and if you caught that, you might have wondered, well, who needs a 10 by 30? That's a pretty big space. But if you live in an area like where we live, there's a lot of people that own small boats,
Mm-hmm.
and you need to have a place to store your boat, in the off season, and 10 by 30 is kind of ideal for a little ski boat, right? Um, Another idea that I thought was fascinating was up in Montana, they actually have storage condos. And so you don't just rent the space, you actually buy the space. And it's like a timeshare. Um, well, not timeshare, what am I saying? It's like a condo. You have common space, common area space. That's what I meant to get to. But for the most part, you own that space, and people move their RVs in there, and people move beds in there. It's not like a primary living space, but they deck them out, they carpet them, they make all kinds of improvements to this space that they've bought to put storage in, to work in, whatever, and it's fairly permanent for them. So it makes more sense for them to buy it than to just rent it out. And that is one way to create a project that you get cashed out on. And since it's a condo with common area, you will always maintain, just like the mobile home park, you will always maintain some source of passive income with that property because they still have to pay the HOA fees, right? The common area fees. And so you still keep that stream, but you get a ton of cash back on the sale of the condos that gives you a profit, puts money back in your pocket where you can go repeat it all over again. That's a pretty cool strategy.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, lots of things you can do with storage spaces, storage units, and other kinds of storage facilities. There's a couple different places again where you can find those kind of investments. Again, we got LoopNet and the search temp is there, but there's a new one here on the right. It's called List Self Storage, and it's got different parks, mobile home parks for sale. And if you go to that website, you see where it has this Jernigan Capital self-storage lending. That's a rotating advertisement. And if you sit on that website for very long, you're going to see lots and lots of resources pass through that rotating advertising thing. So here's a lender. They have brokers on there. They have lots of things that you can be able to look at and use if you're going to get into this business. So not only can you find properties through these guys, but they've got links to other people that are trying to market to people who are wanting to break into this business. And so good source of tools there. So if you're looking at checking into working with storage units, these tools would be a good place to start. Find out what's out there, what things are running for, what tools are available to you, etc. Christine?
All right, I'm just going to let you in behind the curtain. So while you were talking, I started thinking about, some people like to buy these places as partnerships, and I got thinking about some of my past partnerships, and then I got thinking, it would be really fun to do our next thing after our sneak peek series. Well, I already promised to Tyrell we'd do the checklist one very next, so we'll do that, but one that's not so much information, that is just cut and dry, and I hate to use the word boring. None of this is boring, right? But it is a lot of information. It's like drinking from a fire hose if you've never heard of any of this before. But I'd like to do a fun one. And I was just on that little mental tangent that we should do some funny partnership stories and whatnots of real estate, what not to do when you're investing. And I think it would be a hilarious webinar. So
Steve and Christine's investment outtakes.
I like it. I like it. So, yeah, nothing really to contribute to this page. You did just fine on that page. But up and coming, stay tuned. A few weeks from now, we're going to do kind of a goofy, important goofy, but I'd like to lighten it up a little bit and just have some laughs about some of the crazy things that we've done and learned and maybe wish we hadn't done, but are grateful for the experience from it also. There you go. That's where I was.
Okay. Good enough. Okay, so We have some additional products and services that we offer. We do group webinars. We also do one-on-one appointments. We have daily group accountability calls where we talk about what did you do yesterday and what do you got on your schedule for today. And we're just there to help you stay on track and make sure that every day is a productive day. Even if the production for today is that you take a rest, at least it's planned out, and that's where we're going to focus today. So that's what that's meant to do, is just to help you keep on track and to give you a little bit of feedback along the way with how things are going for you. Then we have group coaching for businesses, where we'll coach the whole group at a time. We have contracts and scripts that are available, and so we'll help you use the right words in contacting people in all sorts of scenarios. So keep in mind those things are all available as well. In our real estate investing series, we have a 6-week series on all of these topics that we've just listed here. So wholesaling is usually where folks begin, but you can hop in anywhere here. But we do wholesaling, we do rentals, fix and flip, seller financing, bank-owned and foreclosure properties, commercial properties, and then we've pretty much decided we're going to split the mobile homes and storage units into 2 separate ones. So we'll need to fix that next time around. But there's just too much information to try to cram into 6 weeks if we're going to do both of those. So we'll break that up a little bit. We also do life coaching, and what we have found, Christine and I have a common coach, mentor, that has taught us that success follows personal progress. And if you're having difficulties in some of your personal progress areas, then that might affect how you're doing business-wise and financially. And so we want to help people to get over some of those issues. So one of the biggest ones that confronts people is just simply time management. And if you don't manage your time, then you're losing lots and lots of opportunity. So we want to get that piece straight. The second piece that we want to make sure we get in place is the money management side of things, so that you do well with what money does come in and that you're responsible with what comes in. And then we're going to depend on the principle that if you're faithful with a little bit, you'll be given much, and that's kind of how we operate. So once you learn to handle well the smaller things, the larger things will come. And so we want to be able to focus on some of those wealth building principles and get those in place. Sometimes life just happens and we get derailed by things we didn't expect. Maybe we saw them coming somewhere down the line, but sometimes we're blindsided. Either way, things like divorce, things like death in the family or some other major loss, sometimes addiction can sideline people and create problems and difficulties that make it very difficult to be successful in other areas of life. And so we've got some tools and some resources in those areas as well that we might be able to help iron out a few things and help you to become more productive, more successful in the things that you do. So that's our life coaching piece. And we pretty much deal with lots of different topics. I'm trying to think of anything that I haven't really dealt with before. Well, I can, but I'm not going to go there. But anyway, there's a lot of stuff that we deal with here, and it's really up to the people who come to us what we talk about in our life coaching. So unless they specifically choose one of these topics, we might be talking about some other personal issues or some other things that are just going on in their life that they struggle with, and we help them to see a path towards making their weaknesses into strengths. And so just keep that in mind. We don't have it listed here, but if it's an issue for you, sometimes it's a good thing to just talk it through somebody and let them help you discover some solutions that are going to work well for you. Christine?
Amen.
Okay.
Amen. Everything is interconnected, right? You guys have probably discovered this by your age of life. We probably don't have too many people under the age of 18, but you know your home life affects your school even if you're 16, 17 years old. Well, your home life also affects your business. Your business setup also affects your offers in your real estate. Everything affects everything else. And so we don't just say, here are your real estate basics, good luck to you. If you are dealing with any kind of thing like Steve mentioned, you bring it to us. We'll find how to fit those pieces together, and maybe we shift a little bit and work on time management for a week or two or a month, and then we shift back into some other things. So it's really important to know what your roadblocks are, to be able to identify them, break them down into how we can get through them, over them, around them. But really, anything that you do, whether it's business related, real estate related, money management related, it's all going to touch the other areas of your life, your personal growth and development, how you deal with your kids, your stress level, your level of health, your enjoyment, your lifestyle is going to be affected by all of these things. So we really enjoy taking the person as a whole and looking at all of the different aspects of your life. And if you kid yourself into thinking that none of these things will ever touch you, then maybe you'll kid yourself into thinking you never need an accountability coach or any kind of help from someone like us. I can do it all on my own. You probably can, but it might take you 10 times longer or 10 years longer. How much lost income is there in that period of time where you're struggling and trying to figure it out on your own? This is something that we have done with thousands of people between the two of us, that we have gone in there and helped them to get their lives a little more straightened around, get more on track, and become more successful more quickly and without making a lot of big mistakes. So there is an investment piece into it, but we hope that we will match up with the people. We know we're not right for everyone, but if you are ready to make changes in your life, no matter what those areas of life are, and we are a good fit for you, excellent. We're here for you. And sometimes people are not a good fit for us. They're really not ready to make changes. So we expect results, we expect changes from people that we work with, because we're not here just to take money and go do whatever we do. We're here to change lives. So we hope that you guys understand that about us and what we do. And if we're a good match in any of those areas, life coaching, business coaching, real estate coaching, or a mixture of any or all of those, then let's have a chat. Just give us a call, get a hold of us, let us know what you would like to do, and we'll walk through your goals with you and figure out how to make that happen. Back to you, Steve.
Very cool. And just a final note on that, we're pretty flexible. And while Christine and I are both on the same page most all the time, we kind of have a different approach to different things. Our personalities are different. So if you find that you're not meshing very well with one or the other of us, you've got a person with a different personality that's ready and willing to pick up and run with it. So don't feel like you just be locked in with somebody that you don't connect with. So anyway, that doesn't happen very often, but on the occasion that it does, it's great to have some choice. So, business development. We also have a set of webinars on business development. We talk about startups, what do you need to do to get going in a business, how to lay the foundation, how to put together your entity and set up your taxes. We talk about marketing and sales, the difference between working with employees and working with individual contractors, independent contractors. We talk about when your business grows, how do you scale it up? In some cases, how do you duplicate and replicate yourself? Might involve things like franchising. And we talk about leadership, how to develop leadership in your organization so that you can grow. And one of the really great signs of leadership is how well do things work when you're gone. So if you train your people well enough that you don't have to physically be there, that's good leadership. It's also kind of a freedom thing on your side of things, so you want to be working towards that. But we help with those things in business, our business development course as well. So if any of these things look like something you want to plunge into or just discuss, here's some ways to get a hold of us. We have a website that's iliveaccelerated.com. We have a Facebook page under Accelerated Real Estate Investing. You can check that out as well. And you can call directly by phone or text. Text usually works best. So 801-809-2764, send a text. Or you can take your chances and try to call in. We have a YouTube channel that has a lot of videos on there. So a lot of the classes like this that we've done tonight, our IT guy has done a wonderful job of going through and picking out a couple of the nuggets and putting them into a 1 to 2 minute clip, so that you can get a little bit of flavor as to whether or not you want to go listen to the longer length one. But those are posted up on the I Live Accelerated Facebook channel or YouTube channel. So check into that as well. And of course, you can always contact us again through Facebook. So, Christine?
It's all good. Time to wrap up. Let's do some Q&A. I know everybody's still muted, so I'm going to unmute them and let them have an opportunity to ask questions. Okay, you guys are unmuted in the audience. You can either speak to us, or if you have your questions or your chat box open, you can just type a question in there as well, and we'll go ahead and do live Q&A as long as you need us to tonight. And remember, your questions don't have to just be on this webinar, because we're doing the sneak peek on all of the webinars. If there's any kind of real estate technique you're curious about, you can ask questions about that, or anything on time management, money management, getting out of debt, whatever pleases your little heart. Just go ahead and ask. And we'll just give it about 2 minutes. If we don't get any live questions, we'll go ahead and wrap it up for the night. Steve, do you have anything else you want to say while we wait for some questions?
Oh, just that it's an honor and a privilege to work with you folks, and we just feel grateful for that opportunity, and would love to be able to provide you with whatever services would be helpful for you. And this is what gets us out of bed in the morning. So,
I have a question for you.
Ty, are you? Oh, yep, we got a question first. Go ahead.
This is Tony. My question is about renting post offices, and have you had any experience or any suggestions on properties such as that get rented out to the government?
I have never rented to the government. Steve, how about you?
I know a guy that does that.
And how does he like that?
Here's what I know. We covered this a little bit last week, actually. In a lot of small towns scattered all across the country, the post office is not going to go build a post office there. So instead, what they do is they allow individuals to be able to put up a building and maintain the building, and then the post office is going to rent it out. And so that provides a really great source of income that's going to be paid on time every time by the government, right? And pretty low maintenance, not a lot to do there, and it's a really sweet kind of a triple net lease sort of a deal. And so we include that in our discussion about triple net leases further down the road, but that can be a very nice way to create some income without a lot of headaches.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's interesting. The governor of our state has approximately 12 post offices that his family owns. So that could tell you a little bit of something about the type of investment that it could be.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
Yeah, that's what I do like about those long-term leases, is that they're so solid. It's nice to not have such fast turnover like you do with residential real estate, for example, where every 12 months usually you get a new tenant in there. A lot of those long-term leases for 7 to 10 years, they're fantastic. You think about the money just coming in consistently. I am very attracted to that part of long-term leases, with whether it's the government or not. And in my world with residential real estate, the HUD properties where the government pays a large portion or all of a person's rent, it's got that same feel to it. You've got basically guaranteed income for a certain amount of time. So I love that in the commercial world as well, but that's definitely more up Steve's alley than mine.
Yeah, well, when it comes to these kind of deals, there's the kind of triple net lease properties where you have tenants like the post office, like CVS, like Walgreens. These guys are going to park and they're going to stay forever. You got other companies like McDonald's. They'll never lease a building like this unless it's the only possible way to get a location. In fact, McDonald's will tell you they're not in the hamburger business, they're in the real estate business. And they go buy up places where they can actually put up a franchise. And then they lease that land to the franchise holder. And that's where a lot of the income comes from to McDonald's. It's not in selling the hamburger. But companies like CVS, like Walgreens, like the post office, don't really want to do land ownership. They just rather, their model is to lease out property. So when you find a tenant like that, it's going to act kind of like an anchor in an area, not like a Home Depot would or a Walmart, but on a smaller scale. Those things can add some real stability to, say, a smaller strip mall. And so, great if you can land one of those deals. And if you go to the webpage of any of these companies, either you can find out how to get to the corporate guys by phone, or in a lot of cases, you can actually go to their real estate acquisition page, and they'll tell you exactly what their criteria is for properties that they are looking for. It's kind of like when we talk about wholesaling, when you find out what the buyer needs and then you go find it. Well, on a commercial scale, you have companies like Burger King that'll tell you what they want, what they're looking for, and you go find it and they'll buy it.
Yeah, and another interesting thought on that, Steve, is like with the post office in a small town, sometimes your community will actually put some money in towards that, any improvements, things like that, because it's a vital piece to that community. So that's another little interesting thing to think about.
Yeah.
Thanks, Tony.
You bet.
And I don't know what goes into actually running those things. I remember when I lived in Hawaii, there was a post office out in Hana that was open for 2 hours, 1 day a week. That was it. But somebody was leasing that post office space to the post office.
Oh my goodness.
And, they were just paying for it like it was open all the time.
That's a different lifestyle there, isn't it?
A little bit.
All right. Do we have any other questions tonight?
Thank you guys again so much for all you do to teach us.
We're happy to do it. Thank you, Tony.
Good to have you here.
It's nice when people are on there live because it makes it more fun and interesting for us. So thanks for showing up.
Oh, you bet.
Okay, I don't have any questions by chat or questions box, Steve, so I think we're good to go.
All right, very good. Well, thank you for being here, folks. Thank you, Christine and Ty, for all the stuff that you guys do as well. It's good to be on a team with you folks.
Thank you.
And we'll catch up with you guys next time.
Sounds wonderful. You know what? Sorry I told you to wrap it up, but I just had the thought. Tyrell's been working hard on the YouTube channel and some other things. So, Ty, do you have anything you want to say about signing up for tips and tricks or subscribing to the YouTube channel or anything specific to what you're doing right now?
Steve put it pretty well earlier about how the YouTube channel is coming along. And that really kind of sums it up. There's going to be a lot of the full-length stuff, but then there is those snippets that give you a couple minutes, kind of condense little pieces down to again, like Steve said, kind of get the flavor of how you guys work with each other and kind of what we're doing. And then if you have a little more time, jump over to the long videos. But yeah, you can go to any of these different things. We do have the Instagram channel as well for anybody who's interested in that. The tips and tricks, again, is on the website, the iliveaccelerate.com, and you can subscribe to those at the bottom of the bottom of the page. So lots of good stuff that comes from that. just a little food for thought stuff about things you can kind of look for throughout the week as you're going about your day or your week. So yeah, I would definitely recommend doing that. A lot of good stuff comes out of that you guys put out there for everybody, totally free. So good stuff there as well. And I think that's about it for me.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks everybody for coming, and really thank you, Steve and Ty, as well, for what you do. I appreciate you guys, and thanks to our audience. And apparently Ty has us streamed out on live Facebook, so anybody out there that we don't even know, thanks for joining us. It's always great to have people come and participate in what we do. So hopefully you picked up a couple of good take-home nuggets and you got a little bit of what you came looking for. And if you want some more, come join us. We're here every Monday night. So come back again next week and we'll be here with another topic. Take care, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.